This is a Ferrari. And not even a scruffy presenter in car enthusiast jeans could spoil this view. If you had to draw a triangle representing all of humankind's ambitions and aspirations, then somewhere near the top, if not at it, would be a Ferrari. A Ferrari is a car, of course, but it's also an objet d'art, an object of desire. It is the perfect synthesis between the technological and the artistic. I'm going to show you how it's made. The first Ferrari rolled out of this factory in 1947. The cars are called Ferrari after the company's founder, who was called Ferrari. Enzo Ferrari himself supposedly said that when you buy a Ferrari, you actually pay for the engine and the rest of the car is free. The engine starts life here in the foundry, and the foundry, this is the only European car maker that still has its own foundry. This is a fabulous part of the process because, yes, it's high tech, but it's also occult. As someone who once worked in a foundry, I'm excited. Very excited. The foundry is where the big bits of the engine are cast. It's where earth, fire and metal conspire like witches over a cauldron to spawn the trembling heart of the living machine. Ooh, cores. These are the cores, so these are the bits that form the cavities inside the casting. So they're made of sand, but it's sand mixed with a resin that is then hardened. So it's not going to fall apart like a sandcastle when I touch it. And the really weird thing about working in a foundry, and especially if you make the molds, is you have to think of everything in reverse. That is something that isn't going to be there. See what I mean? To produce the bit that actually is going to be there, aluminium is heated to over 800 degrees Celsius, around the same temperature as the inside of Mount Etna, forge of the gods. This is a holding furnace. Molten aluminium has been poured into here and then alloyed with copper and one or two other things to make the aluminium alloy. That's going to go in there, and then it's going to go into this automatic casting machine, and then we will see it go into the mold. That is the beginning of the creation of the engine. There you are. If he drops it, we have to run away very, very quickly because it spreads very quickly and it makes a terrible mess of your shoes. This recipe for the perfect piping hot aluminium soup represents centuries of metallurgical advancement, but at its core it remains a rather ancient process. It's also rather Promethean because the whole thing is covered in flames, and of course we are melting the core of the earth, or remelting the core of the earth if you like. The aluminium comes out of an ore. It was solid, it becomes liquid, and it becomes solid again, but this time it's a Ferrari. Yes, yes, yes. Squirt, cylinder head. Blam. It's amazing. Now the aluminium has cooled and solidified, the sand can be bashed away to reveal its magic. The casting. You will have noticed a lot of robotic arms and a lot of computer screens, but in the end, it's a foundry, and quite a bit of it still relies on the skill of the operators. The first inspection is simply visual. A man looks at it to say, delicious casting. Which brings me nicely to the next bit, where I am allowed to do something delicious myself. I'm going to make a core, that is, create a bit of the not there engine. This is deburring to take the sharp edges off the core, which has been made in a mould of its own. If you didn't knock these off, they'd be washed away by the aluminium as it came in, and then they become what's called an inclusion in the finished casting. That's bad. The core is made up of several pieces that are then stuck together, so you get one core set that simply drops into place in the mould. Lesson in mould deburring done, now it's my turn. So start at this edge, Steve. Very satisfying. Good, good. Oh, there's a nasty bit there. You see that edge there?
That's all got to be smoothed over.
Normally, when I do careful and skilled things like this, the director shouts cut and bodges it.
Okay, I have control.
But for once, they actually let me finish a job properly.
That went home, as they say in engineering. Bravo.
Here are some the professionals made earlier. I'm going to move on to another key job.
A tree of Ferrari key rings. Sandy's here. We've got 4 minutes. Buongiorno.
Buongiorno.
Now we've got about 2.5 minutes left before it goes completely hard.
And 2.5 minutes later,
The other half of the mould is a simple lid which has in it the runners and risers. That's where the aluminium goes in and then comes back out again. If we assemble that, we are then ready to pour.
once the moulds are made, the aluminium is poured and left to cool. So let's cut to the unveiling.
It's so exciting, this bit. It's still slightly warm. Who would like a Ferrari keyring? There you are. Ferrari keyring.
Sadly, I had to give that nice red coat back, which is a shame. But there is one last perk of the job.
This is the hallowed tarmac of Ferrari's Fiorano test circuit, and I've been given permission to go around it. So let's do that. Oh, only kidding. Yes, all right, I'll go round in the Ferrari.
This is the rather appropriately named Ferrari Roma. Packing a whacking great 612 horsepower and with a top speed of 199 mph, the Roma can do 0 to 60 in just 3.4 seconds. It'll also set you back a mere 170 grand.
This is a first world observation, I appreciate that, but driving around in a Ferrari does make you feel bloody good. In some ways, we've arrived at a little bit of a paradox here, because the thing that makes the Ferrari so delicious from here is, of course, the engine. And that is the bit of it that is most anachronistic. That's the bit that, supposedly, we're going to say goodbye to very soon. But to be honest, if this Ferrari ends up being entirely electric, I'm not sure I'm going to mind. So much of what makes it a wonderful thing will survive. I'm ready for the new Ferrari.